Welcome back to another episode of Psychonaut Sessions, your home for all things psycho. We are taking a look today to the. I'm all mixed up, folks. I'm all mixed up because I'm collecting modern comics again. What's going on? Oh boy. Yeah. So I went out after reading Void Rivals. You can see my review on Void Rivals that I posted. I'm interested in Skybound's Energon Universe, spearheaded by Robert Kirkman and other individuals. And Void Rivals, I read, and I think the reading order is you're supposed to read Void Rivals, and then you're supposed to read Transformers and Duke, and then Cobra Commander. I just jumped right to Cobra Commander because this excited me. This really, oh man, I love Cobra Commander. And this is all like building up to the G.I. Joe series that's going to be starting in November of 2024. So this is all fairly new stuff. I mean, wow. And again, I know I'm doing mainstream books. I'm sorry. But I really did love this. Now, just going to kind of flip through these and talk through. Joshua Williamson, the writer. Andrea Milana is the artist. We've got Russ Wooten again as a letterer. I really love Russ Wooten. And Elisa Leone is the colorist. All good job to everyone. I am not 100% certain again if the actual drawing is done on computer or not. There are times when it certainly 100% feels that way with this particular artist, with Andrea Milana. But please correct me if I'm wrong. Either way, it's still great work. I really love Russ Wooten's lettering. I mentioned that before in Void Rivals. You just can't get much better. But a really fun, interesting element to this is the introduction to Cobra Law as being part of the Cobra Commander cosmology. I didn't really like that in the cartoons when I was younger. I liked Cobra Commander in the Marvel comics written by Larry Hama. But this is kind of interesting. I kind of like it because it introduces Cobra Law, but it actually doesn't make him a part of Cobra Law in the sense that he is one of the Cobra Law race. He was actually a human that was found by Globulus that was kind of adopted into the Cobra Law life and kind of groomed into being a Cobra Law person. So, kind of interesting. We got, Pythona introduced, and Globulus is really cool looking. So it actually, I liked Cobra Law, but I don't know. This is really cool. It actually creates a really cool beginning for Cobra Commander because it kind of keeps some of those elements from the Marvel series that he is just a human being who's like messed up and narcissistic and cruel, but it brings in this like kind of otherworldly element of Cobra Law that was always fun. And why Cobra, why Cobra is the symbol of Cobra Commander's movement to take over the world or whatnot. And it really actually cements Cobra Commander's motivations pretty, even though we don't actually really know the origin fully of that, but you really get a strong sense of why he's doing what he's doing. But there's this tension that between him and Cobra Law that's really fun and interesting because from the outset they do not really like each other, but they're using each other because Cobra Commander is actually a brilliant scientist in this. He was kind of a coward in the comic, or in the cartoon, but in this he's actually quite brilliant, and he's really ruthless. He's not, um, an idiot, and he retreats only because it's smart, not because he's scared. And so the whole concept of this is that he managed to get his hands on a transformer, as we can see the primary Decepticon here, and he's channeling the Energon energy, and they're going to use the Energon energy to be able to power their weapons and power the ability for Cobra Law to take over the world again. Because they used to have control of the planet a long time ago before humans came and messed it up with technology. There's this war between Cobra Law being very centered on organic matter and hating technology, but Cobra Commander utilizes that technology to serve Cobra Law. But Cobra Law doesn't really like it. They believe that technology is evil. So it's really kind of interesting. This is where, like, I'm pretty convinced this is all done on the computer. And not to, it's no disrespect to Andrea. I prefer hand drawn stuff, because you can kind of tell a lot of the brushwork. The brushes are just too uniform in some of their in some of the delivery. So it just that's the one of the things that frustrates me about this series, that I don't like. So anyway, Cobra Commander goes out into the world, and he needs to get more Energon. So he's looking for more Energon, and he happens to go into the Florida swamps and encounters the Dreadnoks. And they are ruthless. These guys run weapons, and they're torturing people. Like, the Dreadnoughts are, like, they were a joke in the cartoon. And sometimes they were in the Marvel comics, but not always. They were still tougher. But man, I mean, the Dreadnoughts in this actually became very scary to me. I would not want to encounter them. But we really learned some interesting things about Cobra Commander in this. So he's got a bodyguard from Cobra Law who's following him around. We're not really supposed to know who it is yet. So he's actually in disguise. He stumbles upon the Dreadnought's stuff. The great lettering again. Despite this being computer drawn, I mean, Andrea's work is stellar. I mean, just incredible action, wonderful compositions throughout. The coloring mixes in really well. And so we get a little sense of the Dreadnoughts, the way that they're set up as well. There's a reference to Zartan, but he's not being seen yet. It's mostly Zarana, kind of in the lead. And this is where things started getting a little, for me, on issue 2. It just, like, went too fast. The books started getting a little bit more skimpy. They read way too fast. And, I'm used to reading, like, 80s comics and 90s comics where sometimes, you can sit with a book for half an hour. There's something about just the format and layout of modern books where it just moves too fast. It's disappointing. If I'm paying $4 or $5 for a comic, I want to sit with it for a little bit. I don't want to be done with it in 5 minutes. But anyway, so yeah, there's some Xandar and Zarana, who are brother and sister. There's some political interplay between them about who's in charge. And they capture Cobra Commander, and they begin torturing him, and he will not say a thing. They're torturing the hell out of Cobra Commander. And this Cobra Commander, you can really begin to see, like, his resiliency. And not only is he resilient to all this torture, which we saw in issue 2, how brutal the Dreadnoughts can be, and you can see it here now, but he begins playing all of these different people against one another and pissing them off, and ends up starting a brawl amongst the dreadnoughts. So you not only see like how tough Cobra Commander really is and how much he can take pain, but also how he is quite brilliant strategist. How he can, take a situation, no matter how dire it is, and turn it up on its head to benefit himself. Eventually, his guardian from Cobra Law comes and takes out the dreadnoughts because it's Nemesis Enforcer from the cartoon, who is like one of the most ruthless beings ever. And again, it ends way too quick. Again, it's just that's my biggest complaint, of this series. Even probably if I had the graphic novel collecting these issues, it would just still go so fast that I would probably have an issue with it. But still, overall, really good. They find the Energon energy that the dreadnoughts were using to make weapons, and Cobra Commander takes over the operation himself. And so Nemesis Enforcer decides he's going to kill Cobra Commander, because that was the goal all along, was just to find the source of the Energon and then kill him. But Cobra Commander, finds a way through his technology and his brilliance to take advantage of the situation again. And that's him with his faceplate off. Like, he's a tough fucker. And that was really cool about Cobra Commander. And that one thing about the cartoon I always hated is how much of a coward they always made him, and how much of a wimp. And he is tough. So he eventually finds the source of the dreadnoughts weapons distribution, and of course it's Mars Industries, which is Destro. Now, there are references to the Duke series in this, so I really probably should have picked up Duke, and probably there's all sorts of stuff regarding the Transformers series, because I actually, that was one of the Transformers that was shown earlier in the book, and I don't really know what's going on. Great cover to end the limited series on. So here we get to see Cobra Commander kind of come into his full form. We get an introduction into Destro as the leader of Mars Industries, and how him and Cobra Commander begin to connect. Mercer, who becomes a G.I. Joe later under the auspices of Sergeant Slaughter, he started out as a Cobra Viper, and so that's kind of cool to see him there. A lot of these elements that, if you've been a long-time collector and fan of the G.I. Joe universe, there's all these really fun things. And I imagine I wouldn't catch that in Transformers, because I was never as big of a fan. But here we get to see Springfield, which is the town that Cobra Commander Cobra had, that was all they control the entire town. And here Cobra Commander invites them to Springfield, and they quickly find out that they're surrounded, and Cobra Commander has built up his lab underneath Springfield to create these weapons. So yeah, they eventually get to the point where they have to have an agreement to help each other. Cobra Commander forces them, basically. He essentially traps them in, you're gonna die, if you don't help me. And Destro's like, well, we're gonna do this together. And Cobra Commander's like, oh yeah. So here's a good sense of whatever makes sense to confirm an alliance. The New World Order is coming, and it will be in my grasp. And Destro's like, our grasp. And Cobra Commander's like, of course. So making it seem like that, he's gonna, there's that interplay that they always had, actually. But this makes it more serious and more intense. And so we get the introduction of Cobra Commander really kind of coming in and having a group following, and showing the beginnings of how Cobra is really getting started. Again, the artwork is really well done, but again, also there's just times when I can tell that I think it is done with computers. Again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not meaning to trash talk it, because it's all brilliant work, along with the lettering and the coloring and everything. Then there's kind of like an epilogue of Cobra Law. They're actually taking to the stars because they're afraid that, again, they fight against technology, and they see there's this stuff going on with the Transformers out in space, so they're going to the stars themselves, so there's going to be some interaction there. Really excited. Like, wow, wow, wow. I want more. I want more. I actually am excited. My only complaint is just in modern comics in general is that digitalization is just sometimes a little too heavy, but also, honestly, they just modern comics move too fast. There's too little that happens um, in a modern comic nowadays. I just get to them through them too fast. So next is Destro and Scarlet. I actually have the Destro and Scarlet series. I might do a review on them. I might not. I'm not sure yet. But I really did enjoy Cobra Commander, and I'm excited to see more what Skybound is going to be doing with this character and the rest of the characters in the series. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for more notifications. Everybody, keep it safe out there and keep it psycho.